There's a couple of bad points in this video are covered with pixels. Now I'll be interviewed by the TV channel. You think the future is in fasting? I'd not say that for pure fasting. I think the future for the sick is possible if they practice fasting. If you eat his food that does not correspond to your type, accordingly you get illnesses, and therefore fasting is a good help. You give up junk food for a while. But if you eat the food that suits you, then you don't need to starve. You enter a state of lightness and a feeling of stomach fullness since childhood. It's replaced by a comfortable feeling of emptiness, and you become uncomfortable that the food is inside you. I didn't think how to starve. For me, it was not the goal. It became a natural continuation. I tried to eat raw food and then realized that it's easier for me when the body is cleaner and is in emptiness. But before, when he ate meat, mushrooms, potatoes or fatty foods with butter, except for sleep, I didn't want anything. And the question arises, is it necessary for health at all? For thousands of kilometers it floats, consumes about 30% of substantious fat. It's functional, but a person does not. It's a burden. If you ban the thin and fat in the room and try to check which of them will live longer, then they will equally survive. Moreover, there are examples when a thin one can withstand longer. That is, fasting is a good tool to return to your nature, and people who practice it live longer. The only way to change is to find out more. People don't take these steps because they don't know. When a person begins to know, he begins to do better for himself. Are you your own enemy? Of course not. I wouldn't stick to this lifestyle if it hurt me. Like vaccinations, it is a tool of genocide, like alcohol and etc. People think that there's a conspiracy, but when you see a specific manifestation, you think maybe this is not such a deception. Can there be something right about it? Packs the consistency that is developed by the mother for the baby, so that it develops quickly. Somehow manipulate if you begin to understand what is happening. Therefore, milk is one of the tools to keep the level of our ignorance. And this conspiracy between pharmaceuticals and medicine and the government is very transparent. Most people already understand everything, and there is no need to talk about it. People understand what is unclean. The picture is cool, you won't say anything. Nothing changed? There is so much light here. A few words of background. Medical fasting wasn't accidental. It was a logical outlet for an interest in a healthy lifestyle. I lived a traditional life. I had a completely standard diet: meat, milk. I considered all the products from the point of view of flavor. I knew that the majority knows. And some deep knowledge was unknown to me because from the birth I was accustomed to trust the authorities in medicine, in science. And it so happened that by the age of 25, these authorities advised, "Buddy, come on, there's a society, it's customary to drink alcohol in it. Here's a movie, here's a classic, here's a story." Up until the age of 25, I had alcohol and cigarettes, going to clubs. And so it turned out that by these years I wasn't in a very good health. I began to notice that from the point of view of medicine, I was overweight. I have problems ranging from acne all over my body and ending with vegetative vascular dystonia. I wondered why. It seemed I was young and such disease. The medical book was thick. I constantly visited doctors. I began to be interested, and at that time there were a lot of sobriologists who said that it wasn't so clear with alcohol. Because this is not a natural, normal state of health when you just intoxicate yourself. I decided that I would not drink. Tried a month, 2, 3, and noticed a difference between the state when you drink sometimes, maintaining the level, and when you go full cleanless. I remember that when the month went by, my brain started working differently. My memory improved, my vision began to improve. There are many positive aspects that were simply unusual because now how to rest. And I decided to give it up and didn't notice how half a year passed. A year. I felt a completely different work of the brain, at first for information, and I began to study. I looked at what the internet offers me and was surprised when I came up with such concepts as vegetarianism and veganism and then a raw food diet. I went to the question of therapeutic fasting. This was the next step. I learned that there are books, and not one from a crazy scientist, but a huge number of scientists who were in systematic medicine and natural methods of healing. There were many books, and in my personal library there were more than 1,000, of which 150 or more are vegetarian, 50 or 70 are raw food. There are about 30 curative fasting for sure. I read 30 books, and of course I read some of them completely, and I got acquainted with others because the concept is the same. Here we have a disease. If you want to improve your health, then don't eat in certain cycles and your body is restored. A huge number of references to natural nature where animals are healed through fasting. And in practice, when you are sick, you lose the desire to eat and start eating after recovery. There are a lot of tips from the point of view of common sense and science. These books were a logical continuation, and you begin to understand that there is a difference from what is shown on TV, because there is little talk about it, dosed out. And the only way is the basis in the form of pure consciousness when you gave up alcohol. This was the first step, took away the alcohol and further. Reading books became a hobby. I began to enjoy new information like vegan, raw food. You will read 100 books about eating raw natural food and it makes you feel better. You have a certain picture that 90% of disease arise from the fact that you eat. Either we eat the food we need or we don't. And all the animals on the planet don't eat the food that we eat and don't know how to get sick. A simple analogy in a zoo with "don't feed the animals" sign. We have such vicious visitors that they will toss bread and nails? Will wish evil? No, they just came to look at the animals to show the children. They give what they eat themselves, and the zoo workers know perfectly well that an animal that has received such food is sick, and for them it's bad, it needs to be treated. You lie at home, drank the medicine, recovered, and the animal needs very serious care. And it's obvious that if it harms a living being, then it will harm you too. Because the relationship between animals and humans is very strong. And if you take a wolf and a dog, there might be a rough example, but if you remove the skin and leave the inside, not everyone will see the difference. If you take a man and a large monkey, a gorilla, remove the skin, but many organs are so identical that not everyone can tell the difference. But in the animal kingdom, there is a certain diet that opens up to a normal state of health. There is a person who has a huge number of disease. Almost 40 hundreds were counted which arise from the diet. About medical fasting, if you eat food that does not correspond to your type, you get disease, and therefore fasting is a good help. You give up junk food for a while. But if you eat food that matches your species, then he doesn't need to starve. Fashion into various types of fasting? The trend is not only there. In general, this phenomenon is ubiquitous. When there is some information and it slowly enters the world, there is such a thing as accessibility. It grows every year due to the fact that everyone has gadgets. Getting information has now become easy. Knowledge has always been, and the trend is a continuation to the fact that more people are beginning to know about it. What is happening now? Just more people learn about it, are interested, understand that it's good for health. And when you realize the obvious health benefits, you wonder. Someone read the book, someone asked a friend, someone tried to starve and started eating cleaner food. and received positive changes in health without any pills. And they share so more people know, and this is natural process of spreading information. If you eat something good and it works, then they share it. Hence the desire to talk and talk about it. Do you think the future is fasting? I wouldn't say for pure fasting. I think the future for the sick is possible if they practice fasting. Because starving everyone in a row is absolutely useless. If you eat moderately or good food corresponding to your biological species, then you don't need fasting. But if you pay attention to nature, there are a lot of creatures who eat once a day or a week. Very many species do this, and therefore I don't exclude that at some time a person ate in the same way, and this wasn't some kind of severe restriction. Now there is such an abundance of food, such availability, plus the food has become extremely synthetic, which has begun to swell, and this spectrum of disease started from here. Therefore, even keeping the same diet that you have, you will eat less often. Pay attention to wildlife, like lions eating every 3 days, then we will feel much better. Our bodies will have time to clean out what we eat, because not everything we eat we need. The bulk of the substance is ballast, and the only way to clean it out is to give the body a rest. Why people often get sick when they go on a trip, lie on the beach and feel that they have a cold? Because they receive the energy of the sun, they begin to move more dynamics, they eat fruits, and this gives energy. And energy releases the infection. Initially, the attitude towards the disease is wrong, it's perceived as something bad. We are accustomed to the fact that if we get sick, it's bad. In fact, illness is a clue. It means that there is energy in the body to release it. Because without this, there is oversaturation with slacks and death. You eat every 3 days. I eat more often, once a day. Sometimes I miss days. I had periods when I had 4 days off, 1 day in a month, and I missed 2 days. That is, in a month, I had 6 days of refusal to eat. At first, it's stressful for the body, but when you do it gradually, you enter a state of lightness. And the state of incompleteness of the stomach, habitual since childhood, when we feel calm. It's replaced by a more comfortable feeling of emptiness, and you become uncomfortable with the food inside you. But it shouldn't be confused with anorexia. It's a psychological disease, it's different. But here, there are reasonable limits when you refuse food and do it at least in a day. When you don't eat in the evening to rest. So that not only consciousness, muscles, but also your digestive system, as it officially called, rests. How to start, there are no questions, but the correct way out is more important. Cases when people go into fasting under the supervision of specialists, it's in Europe and in Russia. When people went into fasting, everything was fine under supervision, but after that they broke down and ate 3 servings of pasta and the person just died. The body has completely recovered, rested, its digestion has calmed down, and it takes time to start it up. You need to gradually start feeding. And people, while maintaining their usual nutritional level, ate 1 portion, another, using amplifiers as spices that cause overeating. Their body didn't have time to reorganize and stopped. Therefore, in fasting, the main thing is not the entrance, but the exit. Entry to fasting is elementary, just don't eat. The question is, how will you feel at the stage of rejection and how will you return to food? It's important. And the main criterion at the entrance is the state of health. If you are of age, that is, you have already eaten, if you are overweight, when the body is oversaturated, because obesity is a disease. There is only a question about the degree of obesity. Slightly or more obesity. Accordingly, this is also the key in choosing the speed in which you need to go into fasting. The best way is to prepare yourself for fasting through raw, natural foods. It cleans strongly and the body will ask for it itself. It happened to me. Fasting was not a goal for me, it became a natural continuation. I tried to eat raw food and realized that it's easier for me when the body is cleaner and more time in emptiness. Then the question went, how cool, how easy, why not continue? And in the end you come to the conclusion that you can't eat for a day, not eat for half a day. I had periods when I gave seminars. I drove and realized that I had to talk for 5-6 hours in front of an audience, and in order to be energetic, it was just to refuse food. I'm going to a seminar, I have 6 hours to go, I ate a tangerine, I come and one tangerine is enough for me to transfer all this energy. If I ate, what happens when people eat? It's lethargy, weakness, I want to sleep. And from the point of view of logic, it turns out very funny, absurd. You seem to have eaten to get energy. It turns out that you have eaten and you need to rest. Clearly something is wrong with this food. When you eat fruits, vegetables, drink freshly squeezed juices, energetic, charged food, you don't need any rest from it. I don't remember that I would drink juice and I wanted to rest. But when I eat meat, mushrooms, potatoes or fatty foods, except for sleep, I don't want anything. And the question arises, is it necessary for health? Already 2 years ago, I gave up alcohol. At 27, I gave up meat. At 28, from milk. At 29, I switched to raw. It turns out 5 years on raw, 6 years without milk, 7 years without meat, and 9 without alcohol. And I don't feel limited, I live calmly. I have a lot of people in the gym who doesn't starve, eat everything, and they are very physically enduring. The main thing here is a constant regular load. I never miss the gym. After recording, I will have a workout. I do kickboxing, I had Greco-Roman wrestling, I regularly do strength training, jogging with weights. Food is a good help. Many people eat good food, but they absolutely ignore sports, so they don't have such good health. Therefore, between health and sports, I don't choose anything. I press the pedal at the same time. Then there will be endurance. Because when I ate everything in a row, my performance in sports was the same, but endurance, jogging was a pain for me before. I knew it was good for my health, and now I'm looking to run 24 kilometers and never exercise. You lie down and it's easy for you, the body works well, high flexibility, speed. In terms of peak strength loads, meat eaters are strong, they can survive, but endurance, cardio, functional workouts benefit those who eat cleaner food. This change was due to the structure. I don't even know how to clearly distinguish fasting. I eat fruit once a day, a couple of times a day. For example, before training I will eat a tangerine and after that I will drink juice. Can it be called fasting or is it eating juices? From the point of view of the majority, this is generally fasting in full, but from the point of view of logic, this is food. I eat, but most people think of it as fasting, but I don't think I am. When you are hungry, you are depleted, and I'm not depleted. I have a lot of energy, so I think this is a kind of cycle that was originally, but we left it. And our idea of how you should eat is somewhat distorted. They say there are many fat people in America, and this is considered the norm. We have less because there is not much fast food, although we are already catching up. What is becoming the norm for the majority? We see a lot of fat people around. This is normal for us. When we see a person who eats juices and slim fit, he seems abnormal. Therefore, the norms have changed. The same with food types. The bulk of people eat anything and everything, and for them vegans, raw foodists, fruitarians are abnormal. Are you out of my mind? Why limit yourself? We don't live in the last century. from the point of view of what was originally what's need for nature, and in nature there is no obesity. If they have fat, then it's functional. The whale has fat and it uses it to swim thousands of kilometers, consumes 30% of this fat. It's functional. And in humans, fat is not functional, it's a burden. If you take a thin and a fat one and put them in one room, then, when checked, they will leave the same way. There are examples when the thin one can withstand longer. Fasting is a good tool for getting back to nature, and people who design it live longer. Animals that can eat regularly live less on average, while those who have regular fasting cycles live longer and are more resilient and boast health and energy. They behave differently in the cage, there is no apathy, they are very mobile, absolutely identical with people. I met a lot of people, gave seminars, traveled to cities, I ran a channel on YouTube, and I regularly read people's reviews, and from everyone the same way. Switching to live food, they feel a lot of energy. Those who are just trying to have temporary adaptations are called stabilizations, but sooner or later it ends and pure energy begins. I would probably remove the word theory. This is a concept of theory, and most people perceive it as hypothesis, conspiracy, or so on. But when you start to be interested in it and try, you understand that this is not a theory, this is practice. So I think it would be more correct to answer what nutritional practices are, and they are completely transparent. You eat everything, you get a whole bunch of disease. You go to a simpler diet, you remove animal products, meat and milk. For me, milk is even a little more harmful, because it's easier for meat to leave our body. And milk is finally dispersed. It leaves toxins faster and has a negative effect on the body. We have vegetarians who have removed the meat. There are vegans, there are many varieties who believe that one should not eat according to pietic norms or just for health. There are vegans who don't consume all animal products. And there are raw foodists who take away cooking products. There is the concept of enzymes, live food, more vitamins, energy. Because heat treatment kills not only the microbes that were invented for us, it also has a beneficial effect, preserves vitamins and trace elements contained in food. And the next stage is the coolest. I have experienced. I ate only juices for 98 days. It's indescribable, an incredible feeling of lightness when your digestion is completely asleep. You just drink the timing and that's it. It's a lot of energy. You want to smile, create, give good. And even if you take my YouTube channel where I record videos, when I eat nuts or fruits, I have the desire to record once a day. I will record about 3 videos a week, but when I had the juice meal, I had the desire to record, share several times a day. I can record several videos in a day, I could play sports. And this experience made it clear to me indeed there are more advantages to living natural food that some representatives of the official authorities and medicine recommend to us in advance. I can tell you about the difference, because I remember that on traditional food you need to try to survive, start the day, wake up, wash yourself. But when you eat clean food, you have a lot of energy, you can wake up and not even wash your face. Because when we sleep, our body is engaged in cleansing. In the morning you wake up, your excretory systems are dirty, bad breath, saliva, mucus, a very unpleasant odor from the body. You want to wash it off. While you function all day, eat, the body is in a state of consumption, and during sleep, when you do nothing, it begins to cleanse itself. And we wake up in the morning like a Caspo. But with a clean diet in the morning, you wake up, energy, jumped up and went. You no longer need so much time to enter normal mode. And the difference from what people and me are doing is not that big. Maybe there is a difference in that I want to read more than to watch TV. I may have watched some discovery programs on TV, but now I understand that this is better to use my time rationally. I'd rather download the recording of the program and watch it whenever I want. Instead, I read a book, go to gym, chat with friends. The difference is small. The question is how effectively you use your time. Because when you're mild in this disease, respectively, you have less time. When you have energy, you do more. Therefore, the difference is obvious. You do more. You sleep less, by the way. When I was on juices, I could sleep 3 hours a day. I had periods when evening came and I didn't want to sleep. Lie down, I understand that I don't want to sleep. I get up and write the script for the video, read the book. Today I recorded a video for half the night and read a book in order to tell about it later. I have a section where I talk about books, people like it. The only difference is that you have more time, and not only during the day but also at night. It's very good that you asked, because headaches is my main scourge. This is one of the reasons that made me wonder if drinking alcohol is worth it. Before I removed alcohol, until the age of 25, headaches was my problem. I took medications, the most popular pain reliever. I took it almost every day. The head hurt 3-4 times a week. I didn't know what to do about it. Official medicine said swallow pills and will not say anything else. And when I removed the alcohol, my blood vessels expanded, my brain began to work properly, and accordingly the headaches disappeared. Therefore, now I never have a headache. It hasn't hurt me for 3-4 years already. You exist, the head does not hurt. If earlier it was the norm, torture, but now the head doesn't hurt at all. Therefore, there's no need to use medicines, but there are times when you are overworked. And people who are still in a transitional stage, their toxins are cleared, enter the bloodstream, then a head hurts. Here, the best help without drugs is calmness, and there is a technique for this called breathing a square. You breathe in for 3 seconds, don't breathe for 3 seconds, breathe out for 3 seconds, and don't breathe for 3 seconds. Thus you breathe a square calmly, without straining, without zeal. Maybe not 3 seconds, but 5 seconds if possible. This is how you oxygenate your brain. One of the causes of headaches is oxygen starvation. When small vessels are so heavily contaminated by the diet that there is not enough nutrition, such breathing saturates the vessels with oxygen and pain disappears. Seriously, if you never tried this exercise, literally try this exercise for 1.5 minutes, after which the headache starts to go away immediately. I would recommend starting with alcohol, as I did, because if you don't figure it out, then the rest of the steps are pointless. When people ask me what would you say to yourself if you were in the past, what would you say and do in 30 seconds, what would you say to change? I would say, buddy, study the alcohol issue. There is one narcologist, his name is Fakhreev. He has lectures, lessons on sobriety, literally 1 hour. Find Fakhreev's sobriety lessons on YouTube, rethink everything related to alcohol. And then you will not be stopped, you will read, watch, interact more. Because the only way to change is to learn more. People don't take the steps because they don't know. And when a person begins to know, he does better for himself. Are you your own enemy? Of course not. I wouldn't stick to this lifestyle if it hurt me. But I got more information, I checked the pros and cons. I had a picture that was before and the one that is now. It's not just that I got good health because of what I was doing. Now I can compare, and when you can compare, then you can draw conclusions. I'm sure that any person, when he receives new information, rethinks it, you will try it on in full, which will be very good, or in part. And this will already lead to something more. Here everyone decides for himself. I would recommend starting with the most basic, fundamental tool for destroying our society. Everything in the movies, the trolling, I don't believe in them anymore. Alka poisons are the #1 scourge. I don't think there is a need to swear against all doctors. There is traumatology, there is an emergency surgery when they are really needed. But the bulk of doctors are from institutions when they are only engaged in maintaining a certain level of ignorance. They themselves live the least according to statistics. Doctors live less than ordinary people. It sounds strange. It's like coming to someone who has to help you and he has the same problems. This is absurd. We'll find out everything from our expert. We have a guest of the program in our studio, the head of the Beauty and Health Center, Alfer, Anastasia Idrisova. Hello. Is it realistic to do something and suddenly look younger for the new year? In fact, it's high time. Now the period begins when you can even manage to apply the most serious or traumatic procedures and recover. Change completely for the holidays. Therefore, now we have the start of the hot season when you can change. For the better, of course. Official medicine is in the stage of a medical conspiracy. There's a good movie called Dr. Knock, a great comedy. And there, through sarcasm, through irony, they'll elevate the funny to the great and the great to the ridiculous. And the brightest truth is slipped under the nose, but people do not critically perceive it. A bit of conspiracy. The fact is that the managers of our society, call it what you want, Masons, whoever you want, it doesn't matter. They are well aware that people are beginning to recognize. They understand that the medical system is brainwashing us, that we must be vaccinated, pills, medications, treatments, we will die without them. And it became obvious to them that people began to take it in. It became clear that medicine is fundamentally deceitful. 90% in medicine is almost quackery, a real deception. People who understand this begin to wonder about the alternatives that can be done instead. I haven't been to med institutions for a long time. For me, medicine is only traumatology if there are any emergencies. And the bulk is like pediatricians and so on. Why are they needed if you are healthy? Why go to the hospital? Why get examined? Why get vaccinated? All vaccinations are a genocidal tool, like alcohol. People think these are conspiracy theories, but when you see specific manifestations, you think maybe this is not such a conspiracy. Maybe this is not a deception. Can there be something right about it? If you are more interested, you will find out. I think that ordinary people work in the fitness industries who talk about the fact that there is a certain particularity of performing these exercises, and I'm very glad that they are, because they help to avoid a huge amount of injury. And the only thing that could be wrong is, of course, people who are obsessed with protein, that they must be consumed, and it's recommended to do with meat and milk. And we have Chinese studies, meat for wimps, a lot of books that say that all cancers are due to this dairy industry. So people in the fitness industry, not knowing what meat means, will advise eating more. Therefore, I always say, if your coach tells you to eat meat and milk, run, literally and figuratively. I don't think that the milk that comes out from the mother is for you to grow into poison. He has a certain concentration of proteins, amino acids, substances that are needed for growth. But we have an irrational substitution of concepts, because in our country they say milk of a different kind is necessary to consume. If it were necessary, then we would drink the mother's milk, and the mother would give milk all her life. The first absurdity is milk of a different kind, which is completely illogical, and milk is lifelong. No one drinks milk throughout their lives. Milk of a certain consistency, which is produced by the mother for the baby so that it develops quickly at the start. The cow has a substance ratio of 8 grams per liter, which is necessary for the small calf to gain weight quickly. If a human child drinks such milk, he will have a huge number of problems and cancers and so on. If a child drinks milk throughout his life, it's also not good. We just have an industry that is interested in treating people. She keeps on sick people. If you don't drink milk, if you don't eat a lot of harmful things, you will be healthy, but how to manage you? How will you be manipulated if you know what's going on? Therefore, milk is one of the tools to keep a certain level of ignorance with us. And this conspiracy between pharmaceuticals and medicine is very transparent. I don't know, most people already understand and there is no need to talk about it. People understand what's unclean. Mother's milk? There is no question. This is necessary in order for you to grow, for a quick start of development. But drinking milk throughout life is abnormal, and even more so we are frightened by horror stories about a lack of calcium. But look at this society, where every store sells calcium replenishment pills. If milk provides calcium, why do we have a shortage? We need to think about it. Have you ever noticed that at least 3 ads about calcium are advertised on TV? You are joking. Do we have calcium supplements? Where do we get calcium deficiency? We regularly consume milk. Why do pharmacies and convenience stores sell calcium supplements? There are whole shelves in pharmacies, different types, stand in rows. When you communicate with people, they take you away and say, "Hey Roma, we eat meat. The meat has everything we need, all the necessary vitamins, minerals." Then why is there such an abundance of calcium supplements in this meat and dairy society? I thought everyone had enough calcium from animal products. As the meat and dairy industry people like to say, emergency message, not enough. Animal protein oxidizes the blood. The body uses phosphate to neutralize, and calcium leaves us through urine. Look around you. Be aware of what is happening. There's a huge amount of research that clearly shows the correlation between meat and dairy products and the frequency of fractures, osteoporosis and cancer. And a society where less meat and milk are consumed has fewer fractures, bone problems and osteoporosis. I'm asked sometimes, I broke, what to do? And I said to remove the milk and everything will heal quickly, and so it happens. I haven't broke anything in my life. I managed to give up milk in time because when you stop using this structure, because milk is highly oxidizing and we must have an alkaline environment. To neutralize acids, our bodies break down our bones into phosphate and calcium. Phosphate is used for neutralization. It transfers us from an alkaline environment due to the powerful oxidation of milk, and calcium is excreted through urine. Milk takes away calcium. Casomorphin is a type of morphine. This is a substance that is produced by the mother for the calf to be near. As a result, people who want milk are under the influence of morphine, a drug. And as long as you don't stop drinking, you will want it. I don't know what kind of production it is. Maybe there are powders, this is just a name for milk. But if the milk is fresh, then there are certainly casomorphins. Consists of water and beggar. The most important thing is that they write in the norms. Of course, when a cow is attached to milk pumping devices during the lactation period, there are many disease, blood, pus. And because of this, they use pasteurization, but this is not purification to separate the pus from the substance. In order not to frighten the population, not to frighten people, they call pus, with the buzzword, the number of somatic cells. People think, what kind of somatic cells? In simple terms, this is pus. And here the rate of these cells in milk is 1 pipette per glass of milk. What is called drinking with pleasure. If you think this is terrible, impossible, you would immediately get sick. Well, somehow you're still being held back. They add antibiotics to natural lies, which is why antibiotics no longer work. Because we are constantly sitting on them. There are a couple of bad points in this video I covered with pixels. Hi Internet! Now I'm going to show you how the dairy industry works in 5 minutes. As with other female mammals, in order for a cow to milk, she must become pregnant, to have offspring, then to feed this milk. That's why cows are constantly fertilized, starting from the age of 1 year. This is a very long process. First they masturbate balls using hands or apparatus that signaled the end. Then they put it in the cow in what the industry calls a rape rack. The cubs of the cow are immediately taken from the mother because if they are together, the cows will drink milk which must be sold to us. But a cow and her child have a very strong affection. Sometimes cows cry all day looking for their babies. If the cub is a boy, it's sent to meat. If it's girl, then it will be raised to become a milk machine, like her mom. Cows are fertilized throughout their lives for constant lactation. This leads for premature aging and mastitis. The cow's udder becomes inflamed, infections and pus appear. Of course, blood with pus is passed through filters, but completely purification is impossible. As a result, all this ends up in milk, cottage cheese, butter. You understand that the meat and dairy industry will not use the word pus in their annual reports. They replace it with the number of somatic cells. And these rates are excellent. 1 pipette of pus per glass of milk. Of course your body doesn't need pus, so it actively gets rid of it, and the easiest way is through the skin. Therefore, everyone who gives up milk and meat gets rid of acne. The most important thing worth mentioning is the physical, emotional anguish of animals. When the cow cannot continue to milk, it means she will be killed. This also happens on organic farms where cows are disposed of in their 5th year. So they give milk until they are slaughtered for hamburgers. As a result, the dairy industry is the meat industry. Every cow that gives milk ends up being slaughtered for meat. Therefore, vegetarians should consider this. If you are raised for meat, you will eventually be killed. But when you are a dairy cow, you are subjected to sexual, emotional, physical exploitation until you are completely exhausted, and then you will also be killed. It sounds terrible, but it is. The natural lifespan of a cow is 30 years, and here it is only 5. Research on calcium protein has shown that intoxicating dairy products actually have the highest likelihood of bone fractures, osteoporosis. And there is nothing surprising here, read the literature about it. Remember, nature has provided us with hundreds of excellent plant sources of protein and calcium, so you don't have to sponsor the suffering and death of animals. You don't think that the cow ate meat in order to give meat later, or drank milk to give milk? What is the point of indulging in mindlessly passing things through someone's body? Go directly to the source, to fruits, cereals, herbs, berries. The dairy industry has done a tremendous job in the education system and the media to convince us we must drink milk. When you are in society, you are taught that it's good to drink milk. And this is the merit of the huge teams of professionals who take care of making you think that way. After all, they were paid a lot of money so that you and your children would hear about it in schools, on TV, and see it in advertisements. You don't need to know more than a few nutritional facts that make you drink this milk. They want you to think that rhino milk is for rhinos, dog milk for puppies, cat milk for kittens, cattle milk for their babies, and cow milk for humans. No, they are wrong. Cow milk for calves. Are these vegans crazy? Consuming dairy products is insane. Try almond, corn, hemp, soy, rice, sesame and Brazil nut milk. In general, milk from any cereal if you love it so much. Anything, not a cow. Why drink milk all your life? No species does this. Grew up, the end. Why drink milk? How grateful I am that you watched to the end. Don't be shy, write a comment. I am Roman Milovanov, a healthy lifestyle activist, blogger, lecturer. I travel around the country and conduct seminars, share my experience from medical books, which I have tested on myself. This is now in trend. People quit drinking and smoking and start playing sports. Subscribe to my channel. I regularly make videos. Click on the links to the video. Thanks again. See ya!